Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Algorithm. I'm your host, Victor Vinciant, and then I got my counterpart to my right on the screen,
What's going on, y'all?
the honorable Tabby Wallace. Well, glad you can make it, sir. This is a good topic for us to discuss, and I know that you've been personally invested in following this stuff as it pertains to administration, politics, dealing with the Trump administration and how they're
Mhm.
executing policy and everything. So, um, you know, take it from here, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm a student tonight, and I might have some questions, and I'll tell you what I see, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, we got into this conversation the other day, as I was just driving around and you and I we just sparked a conversation and just start talking about things.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, RFK, he makes this whole speech about, autism rates the numbers and all these different things. And I was like, okay, how serious do we take RFK? Is he a person that we can take serious, or is he a quackpot? You know what I'm saying? We have to really look and at that and kind of judge him by some of the things he said in the past, and also some of the things that he said in that speech that offended a whole lot of people. And we have to say, okay, what is he? Is he the guy for the job that he's doing right now? Will he help or will he hinder? Um, and before we get started, y'all, I just want to make sure that you guys know that we are not any experts by any means in the subject matter of autism. Okay, I don't have an autistic kid. Vic doesn't have an autistic kid. We have been around autistic kids, and I know that there is a vast spectrum. When it comes to autism, I understand. That there are people that I've had personal conversations with that at the end of the conversation would say, "Well, I'm autistic," and I'm like, didn't see that, you know what
Didn't
I'm
see that,
saying? And
yeah.
right, yeah, and then I've talked to parents, after I talked to their kids, they said, well, he's autistic, and I'm like, didn't see that, so it's
Mhm.
hard to detect at times. So I do get um when RFK brings up the numbers, at one time it was 1 in 10,000, now it's 1 in 31. I
Mhm.
do get when he brings up the numbers why people say, well, it wasn't really diagnosed back in the day because people didn't know what they were identifying. I do get that. I don't know if the numbers were skewed that much.
Mhm.
If I could, I'm just gonna go ahead and present this screen here just a second here. So
Yeah, whenever you're ready, I'm ready.
all right, so let's see here. All right, go ahead and share that.
Coming up.
All right,
I got to stop my other screen. Here we go.
you got it.
Yeah, I got it.
All right.
The baseline for autism in this country was established with the biggest, largest epidemiological study in history, a study of all 900,000 children in the state of Wisconsin, children under the age of 12. They found 0.7%, 0.7 children had autism in every 10,000. That's less than 1 in 10,000. Today, we're at 1 in 31. That study also confirmed the 4-to-1 male to female ratio. There were at that time just over 60 children in Wisconsin with autism. And today it's around 20,000.
Okay. So let's dive into this, okay? Like, so when he brings in the numbers, and like I said, this is a older study from back in the day, and they said that point 0.7 children out of 10,000 were autistic.
Mhm.
Okay. So when we look at those numbers and then we look at the numbers of what he's saying that we see today, 1 in 31, that's a huge difference. That's a huge difference. So even if we do say, well, we didn't know how to detect it, we didn't know how to identify it, were we that off to the point where 110,000, 1 in 31, like, were we that off? And I get some of the comments that people said in underneath this video right here that we're watching right now, because if you look at the comments, you look at some of the short clips, um and you look at the comments underneath those short clips, which I love to do because I want to see the heartbeat of America. I want to see what people are thinking.
Yeah.
For the people who are autistic, they were like, well, they didn't know what to diagnose that little weird kid in the back of the class was. And I'm like, okay, so these are not my words. These are words from an autistic person saying that I was a little weirdish, I was a little quirkish. They didn't know how to identify me, or they didn't know how to define me. So I get that. I definitely do get that. So, but I still can't see that big of a discrepancy in the numbers. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
because how are they tracking it beforehand? What was the criteria?
right.
And what was it? Were they designating, or were they overdiagnosing? What was the reason for like the reclassification of numbers? You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, think about like during COVID, right?
Right.
Everybody that died during the COVID era, they called it a COVID death.
Right.
But did they die of COVID? We don't know.
Hmm?
So, that's always the case too. So if that same line of thought is applied to, I'm saying, autism, like what was the vetting criteria? What was the matrix of decision making? You know what I'm saying, to determine, hey, that's the diagnosis. Because especially when you look at the way that they designated gender affirming care, the psychology, the evaluation that went behind saying, okay, we're gonna create gender affirming care for children that want to transition, you know what I'm saying, to a different gender. So everything's up for discussion now, you know what I'm saying, in terms of like understanding how they go about classifying, you know what I'm saying, different like I wouldn't say mental illness to some degree, or whatever they want to call it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and I get what you're saying. Like you said, who chose to say that this is, how we identify, autism, and like I said, the spectrum is so damn, I mean, it's so big, man. Like it's not narrowed down to one thing.
Because
You know
it's
what
a
I'm saying?
spectrum.
Yeah, definitely, man. So at the end of the day, like, I could see if it was as easy as saying, well, kids who are nonverbal are autistic, you know what I'm saying? And that's all that represented autism. That's not, you know what I'm saying? It goes into so much more, so I'm not exactly sure how they define autism in this study that he's referring to that saw 1 in 10,000, now 1 in 31. Even if we take the more recent numbers, 20, I want to say 2020, he said 1 in 36, and it went to 1 in 31. So we're still going in the wrong direction here.
Yeah.
Now he's labeled it an epidemic, and people are having a huge problem with him labeling it an epidemic. By these numbers, yes, it is definitely an epidemic. He's also calling it environmentally, there's environmental causes, some type of toxins that these kids are getting in their stream or in their body that's causing this to happen. And a lot of people are, somewhat denying that. So as everything is about money, and everything is about the dollar, the bottom line. So I can see a company, or a lot of companies, releasing something either in the food, in the air, whatever, and knowing that this is happening, yet it's getting them billions of dollars. So they're like, well, let's turn a blind eye to it. You know what I'm saying? I could see that happening. I could definitely see that. A lot of people can't see that happening because they just can't vision people being that evil, but I can definitely vision people being that evil, man. So I could definitely see it happening. But hold on, let me stop this screen right here, and I
Mhm.
I want to get this one up right here. So just a second here. Here's another one. Share screen. And all right, so this is the next one that I want to go to right here. Just tell me when you see it.
Yeah, I'm ready. It's up.
All right.
Controversial.
No Diddy.
Autism.
At his first news conference as health secretary, Kennedy addressed the CDC's latest report on the rising number of children being diagnosed with autism. And Thompson has the latest.
Some of the key numbers.
Speaking for nearly 30 minutes, the nation's top health official, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., taking aim at the CDC's latest report on rising autism rates.
This is a preventable disease. We know it's an environmental exposure.
The report released Tuesday says 1 in 31 8-year-olds were identified with autism spectrum disorder in 2022, up from 1 in 36 in 2020. RFK Jr. discounting the CDC's own previous finding that genetic predisposition is a risk factor in developing autism, and doubling down on his assertion that it's an epidemic.
Genes do not cause epidemics. You need an environmental toxin.
Dr. Zach Warren is one of the authors of the CDC report.
We have data that a certain percentage of some types of autism can be clearly explained by genetic differences. We have other evidence suggesting that actually it's the complex interplay of environmental factors.
RFK Jr.'s bleak description of people living with autism causing outrage.
Autism destroys families. These are kids who will never pay taxes. They'll never hold a job. They'll never play baseball. They'll never write a poem. They'll never go out on a date. And we have to recognize we are doing this to our children, and we need to put an end to it.
It is demeaning, it is dehumanizing, and it is flat out wrong.
Sam Branson has a PhD in physics and is an autism researcher. He and his 7-year-old son both have autism.
I think a lot of autistic people have quite a bit to contribute to the world.
Kennedy says he plans to provide more autism data in real time, adding that he'll direct resources to studying environmental factors, exposures, and external factors.
And that's where we're going to find the answer.
All right. So, you know, and this is what's going to happen with this right here, right? We already know that you're going to have people who are going to have a problem with what he's saying. They're going to get caught up in the words, you know, and when they get caught up in the words, they're going to completely forget about what he is trying to achieve here. And, you know, like I said, people like to, for some reason, people just don't want to know information and knowledge. You know what I'm saying? We'll even, and we're not going to get stuck on that subject that I'm going to speak on right now, but we'll even go to Doge, right? And the fact that people are mad at Elon Musk for, you know, actually going into the spending habits of government and auditing government. We're mad at him for that. We're mad at him because we don't want to get this $37 trillion deficit under control. How else do you suggest we fucking get it under control? You know what I'm saying? Unless we dive into this and actually look into the budget and see how our money is being spent, you know, how else do we suggest, you know, getting these things under control? Like this autism thing right here. Now, like I said, they're going to get caught up in the wording that he used. And yeah, I mean, I don't think he used the best words, you know, to say, oh, autism ruins families. You know, come on, man. That's kind of stupid to say. Just don't say stupid stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I completely understand. Maybe he just wasn't thinking. I probably would have said, well, you know, it hurts families, I guess, in a way to where, you know, there are people that have came forward that said, my baby was okay. My baby was talking. My baby was walking. My baby was doing everything they were supposed to. They were learning. They were doing everything that they were supposed to be doing as a toddler. And then, bam, everything changed. And who are we, people who don't have kids with autism, who are we to tell them that their experience ain't real? You
Right.
feel what I'm saying? What
Yep.
kind of disrespectful shit is that? We're gonna tell these people that their experience ain't real? You know what I'm saying? Oh no, you're not seeing what you're seeing. Kind of like the shit where in Aurora, Colorado, people were reporting gangs taking over apartment complexes.
Venezuelan
Oh,
gangs.
right. Oh yeah, you're not seeing that. and then we found out, oh yeah, that's exactly what the fuck it was. You know what I'm saying?
And another example of that, you remember when the US was invading Iraq and they were putting out and Iraqi media was putting out, yeah, the US is not invading Iraq, and then we the US is like blowing up buildings and stuff in the background. Like,
Yeah.
we're seeing the airstrikes say something
Right.
else. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
yeah, I mean,
Right.
you can play damage control all you want to, but the whole point, like you said, introducing the Doge angle of it as as a comparison, it needs to be audited. Everything that we've been looking at over the last period of time, like 30, 40 years, needs to be revisited. It's not because, like, if we could talk about how DNA evolves and humans are constantly evolving, then we need to revisit, you know what I'm saying, like, how many of these illnesses and diagnoses and the psychology of people has changed over time with the different exposures. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because if food has been proven to modify your DNA.
Definitely.
So medicines and everything else probably has the same impact. That's the very reason why the Food and Drug Administration is all housed together.
Right. Exactly. So that's what people don't understand. You know, why have an FDA if everything is just okay? We can be exposed to everything. Why have the FDA oversight, you know what I'm saying, of everything? Because they know, we know that things can, hinder the human body. You know what I'm saying? We know that. We know that there's causation to things that you release into the environment. So like you said, in the last 40 years, I think let's take it to 1989. This is because this is when they started really doing the test of how many kids have autism, or they started seeing the climb. That's I stated that wrong. That's when they started seeing the climb, 1989. So let's take it back to 1989. And it's like he says later on in this speech right here, he says what we need to do is we need to take it from 1989 and see what we released into the environment at that time. And there's going to be a correlation between, what we released and what's happening. And, through the use of AI and the speed at which it can work, can it get it done by September? We'll see. You know what I'm saying? But it is possible that it can be done just by doing that. Just seeing what we released into the environment. AI will be able to put that together and bring everything in and say, okay, well, these are the things that we released into the environment back in 1989 when we saw the increase of rates in autism. So these are the possibilities of what could be causing that. He even went into, there are things that he says that sometimes get him in trouble because he jumps the gun. When you say what's that thing called when your wife is pregnant and they're giving you that you can see the baby inside? What is that thing called?
Sonogram.
Sonogram. Yeah, I'm like lost right now. I need to stop drinking what's in this cup. Anyway, sonogram. So when you got a sonogram, he's saying that, well, sonograms were released around that time. I thought sonograms been used for a long time, but he said, yeah, sonograms were used around that time. We're going to look into that. And I'm like, see, jumping the gun. Let AI do its job, let it do its work, and then from there, you know what I'm saying, present what you want to present. But just don't throw out, say, with sonograms, you know what I'm saying? Well, sonograms help so much. There's so much that you can detect with sonograms. So, there may be a mother out here that saw that speech and now they don't want sonograms. You know what I'm saying? And so now they're not going to be able to detect things that they could detect prior with sonograms because they're scared of sonograms now. Well, I heard, RFK on a speech say that sonograms might be causing, autism. So yeah, like I said, sometimes he jumps the guns. That is RFK's issue, is he jumps the gun, and that's why people look at him like he's insane. You know what I'm saying? But like my biggest thing, as far as, I'm gonna share this screen right here too.
Okay.
Hold on. Yeah, the biggest reason why I want to talk about this subject right here is because sometimes, we allow our children to be, unprotected in certain things, mainly black boys. You know what I'm saying? Can you go back to that screen that you had before, which is kind of in the middle? Because I want to use these talking points on the side here.
Okay. You want to put it like
Right. Okay. You see what I'm trying to
yeah.
display here. Okay. CDC. 1 in 36 children in the U.S. Okay. I
There
don't
you
know.
go. There you go. Oh, no,
Okay.
that's
No, I got to see it on the left here. Yeah. So just make an adjustment. There you go. All
right.
right. So CDC, 1 in 36 children in the U.S. have autism, up from 1 in 44 previously. And also CDC, males are nearly 4 times more likely to be diagnosed with autism than females. A 2020 HHS study showed that Black, Asian, and Hispanic children had higher overall autism prevalence than white children. So we're looking at the Black part right there, right? Dr. Umar Johnson already exposed the school system and the overdiagnosing of ADHD among Black children, right?
Right.
Also the overprescription or overprescribing ADHD medicine for Black children, right? All right. So when you look at this right here, here we go again. Black boys being attacked again, with something. You know what I'm saying? So we see that whatever this is, whatever this ADHD thing, I mean, not ADHD, but autism thing is, it apparently is hitting Black boys at 4 times the rate. You know what I'm saying? I think that's the numbers that I read. 4 times the rate than their white counterparts. And then obviously you see males are nearly 4 times more likely to be diagnosed with this than females. Why? We have to ask ourselves that question.
Yep.
Why? That's a eerie stat right there. You know what I'm saying? Like 4 times higher? That's insane.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So even that number right there should worry us. You know what I'm saying? That
very
should definitely
disproportionate.
worry us.
Yeah,
Yes.
especially when we only make up 13 to 15% of the population, you know what I'm saying, statistically by the CDC. So, and then when you throw that in there and all the other variables that impact, like birth rates and stuff like that, like we talked a whole lot about abortion, you know what I'm saying, and how the infant mortality, there's more boys born than girls. So
right.
It's safe to say that it's more abortions that probably have more males being aborted than girls.
Yeah, I could probably, I could definitely, agree with that. Definitely.
Yeah, because if they're still being born and it's still more boys being born, then it's probably more boys being deleted.
Right. This right here, like I said, this number right here, what's the difference between boys and girls, like as far as like what they're eating, what environmental exposure that, or what exposure environmentally have they been through more than girls? You know what I'm saying? You have to ask yourself that question. I'm not gonna lie, I do appreciate RFK going into this arena and trying to figure this thing out, because I don't think it's something that needs to be taken lightly. I think it's something that needs to definitely be taken serious. People don't want to talk about it. People honestly don't want to talk about this because I think some parents may have autistic kids may feel like they did something wrong. No, you didn't do anything wrong. How can you do something wrong when you're completely ignorant about, the causation of this, right? Yep. There's no information to help you with this. You know what I'm saying? That, when I had, Kamani, and we went through the sonogram process, and my wife being a little older when she had my baby and all that stuff, there were things that worried us, because we had heard about all these things, and we definitely monitored, a whole lot, even when, getting her first vaccinations and things like that, our doctor, stretched them out as much as, we could possibly stretch them out. Okay, so you ask him the question, Doc, why are you stretching out the vaccinations? Or why do you suggest we stretch out the vaccination? They give you that look.
Like they know something. Like they know something.
Right. They
like
give you that look.
Yeah, like you don't know.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's almost like something that's not talked about, but we all know is there. You know what I'm saying? Like, my wife could say all day, "Oh, vaccinations don't cause autism," but after my baby has a vaccination, she's watching my baby like a hawk. You know what I'm saying? You're looking for adverse effects, is what you're looking for. So you don't even believe what the fuck you're saying. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Truly.
And taking into account that, like, that Sentinel Island, great example of isolated people that's not, around the rest of civilization, you know what I'm saying, out in the Indian Ocean. And they say they just arrested a dude, you know what I'm saying, for visiting Sentinel Island, leaving a Coke can, because it exposes them to disease and everything else because they're not vaccinated. You know what I'm saying? So, and historically, we have looked at every time explorers or you know what I'm saying, colonizers, anytime they've gone someplace, they usually end up wiping out a population with, you know what I'm saying, disease that they brought with them. So if we know that to be true, then it is safe to say that, some people are more susceptible to developing disease and exponentially spreading it because of a lack of immunity to it. So in those situations where you separate that group of people and you look at history, we know that there is a need for vaccination, and there's some dangers that come with it as well. It's safe to say that is because nothing's 100%, nothing.
Right.
So nothing's perfect. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's just too many ways to look at numbers and data and then put out the numbers and data that you want. Now you can put whatever narrative you want behind the data if you can articulate your assessment, because that's what we all do. We're all making assessments about what we see and what we think.
And if you look at what Rabu is saying here on the side here on the comments, you want to bring that up, that first comment. The vaccinations is high in mercury. Yeah, we all read that. We've all watched documentaries on it. The MR2 vaccination.
And to add to that, there's there was a large group of mercury poisoning victims for a while.
Yes,
that's a huge. So that tells you something. You know what I'm saying? If it's part of it, it's part of the delivery of the vaccine, then there comes a level of risk that goes to, you know what I'm saying, doing it. Because if you got that, if you got an imbalance, you know what I'm saying, of mercury, then you know what I'm saying, like, the chances are you could poison somebody.
Right. Sometimes, doctors and people in science will snitch on itself. The MR2 vaccine, right? They said we made that vaccine safer. Well, wait a minute. Safer? Well, wait a minute. You said it was safe. You said it was okay. You said it was perfectly fine. But now you say we make the we made the MRT vaccine safer.
Yeah,
you snitching on yourself. So it wasn't as safe as what you were proclaiming it to be.
Which means somebody found out that it was a problem, studied it, and said, "Hey, you need to go back and revisit it and adjust it." And then when you take into account all of these latest prescription drugs that come up over the counter, and then they take them for a while and they come off the market, and later on they come back and say, "Hey, that was bad." I think there was a heartburn medication that they took off the shelf. I don't want to say the wrong one, but they came back, and I wrote a paper on this recently, and based off the National Institute of Health, that that particular heartburn medication was replaced by Pepsi AC. And they took the other one off. I can't think of the name of it, but I'll find it. But they took it off the shelf because it had high levels of nitrogen or something in it that causes another reaction.
Absolutely.
So they put stuff out and basically beta test it on the patients, and they wait for feedback to see who it hurts, and then they figure out what the problem is.
And we'll go to something a little bit more innocent than medicines and vaccinations, right? We all found out, that Girl Scout cookies has a lot of metal in there. We found that out lately in the latest article that they released on that. So the thing is that we yeah, right. Something is innocent in Girl Scout cookies. Yep. I'm talking about a lot of metal in there. So you got to look at things like that. All the things that they allow to get past, the safeguards. I worked in manufacturing when it comes to food manufacturing. I worked at Kellogg down there in Charlotte, and sometimes they bypass those safeguards. You know what I'm saying? And honestly, a lot of stuff can get in your cereal. A lot of stuff can get in your cereal bars. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, that's real. So if they're allowing that to happen in foods, just imagine what they're doing with medicine. Imagine what they're doing with it.
Man, look, I even take that into account because I got a dog, right? And there's a lot of great marketing behind pet products,
Right.
We don't know what's in the food that we're consuming. What's in dog food?
I don't know, but dogs are getting cancer at a much higher rate than they ever had before.
Crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like they'll tell you not to feed your dog table food. But I've seen dogs roam for years. You know what I'm saying? Without eating, you know what I'm saying? Without being fed, and they find a way to survive. You know what I'm saying? Because if you go to some foreign country, there's dogs all over the place, and nobody owns them, but they don't starve. So what's keeping them alive? You know what I'm saying? As far as like their ability to digest food and and be able to sort out what's good for them and what's not. But as humans, we are relying on I guess government to regulate, like what we consume. But a lot of the food that comes into this country, or that's produced in this country or allowed to be sold here from other countries, is illegal in other countries.
Absolutely.
So when we're talking about, we're talking about the FDA as a whole, you know what I'm saying, and in terms of like what's right and what's wrong. But this is the same place that, like, it'll criminalize marijuana,
right?
But let you drive drunk, you know what I'm saying, or make alcohol accessible, and we know what kind of problems it causes.
Yep. You already know, and I see Wabu said something that we can all agree on right here. The money is in the sickness. Yeah, put that up. The money is in the sickness, and if I'm not mistaken, the medical industry is worth what, $808 billion, almost $1 trillion. So yeah, you are completely correct about that. They're not into cures. Cures they don't make money with the cure. So yeah, it's a sick cycle, man. It's definitely a sick cycle, bro, and it's hard to talk about because people, especially us in America, we want to be like ostriches. We want to put our heads in the sand and hope that things aren't the way that we know they are. You know what I'm saying? That's a problem, man. Like, stop hoping things aren't the way that we know they are. That's what you were saying the other day when you say, what's the word that you said after that word that's utopian?
Oh, yeah, like if you use the word should, what you're implying, everything after the word should means everything works perfectly.
Right.
And that is a very dangerous mindset to stay in when you see all of these inconsistencies. You see all of these what's the word? All these contradictions in science, math, and everything else. You have to revisit stuff, you know.
Mhm.
I'm not saying so extreme as like, because one thing isn't right, that all of them are wrong. It's just that there's a degree of accuracy that goes into everything that we make good or bad decisions off of, you know. And this is why I function so much on being, you know, as far as like right thinking, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Being disciplined or undisciplined, because we're the phase now, like we don't have elders telling us the right thing to do because they're experiencing the same things we're experiencing in real time, so they don't know the answers that say no, you don't need to do that. You know, they don't know it on every single thing. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the generation of parents that raised us were the boomer generation parents and grandparents that had a wage earner mindset. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Had to go to work, slave it out, earn your pension, pay into your 401k, and everything will work. But we're in, and that economy came into the early 70s when our parents was old enough, probably in their late teens, early 20s. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? Trying to figure things out as we look back
Mhm.
at, because like think about what we were thinking about when we were in our early teens and late teens and early 20s, you know. So now we got two other economies that's happened in the last 40, 50 years since the wage
Mhm.
earner mindset economy. We went to the investment economy that took place right after the 70s, going into like the 80s, early 90s. You know what I'm saying? And then we went from then we had a chance to jump into the investment economy, you know what I'm saying? Because it was more accessible, there was more education about it. And then now we're in the automation economy. People are doing peer-to-peer bookings, you know what I'm saying, on websites like Airbnb, Turo. People work for apps now.
Mhm.
So
Definitely.
you
Yeah.
sign up on the app on your phone and you can go drive for DoorDash, Instacart, you know what I'm saying? All of these different like apps have replaced uh you know, brick and mortar buildings where you would have to go traditionally interview, fill out an application. You don't even need an interview anymore. As long as you've got a driver's license and
You
reliable
working
transportation,
and
you can work.
yeah, you working. Yeah. For real.
So in the automation economy, which is also producing people that think before they do anything. Everything's worth
Right.
your time now. So
Mhm.
now you got this time to think. It's time to go back and audit the way that we were taught and the way that we consume information and the way that we have conversations around it to see what's applicable and what's not.
Mhm.
And we got to, just like Doge is trying to get um, the government finance checkbook in order and balancing, you know, the way that it does business and the way that it handles contracts and stuff. We have to do the same thing about what we consume and what impacts us every day as consumers,
Yeah.
citizens, and
Yeah.
everything that comes down to it is about you can't take advantage of anything in life if your health isn't in order, if the
Right.
health of your family isn't in order,
Right.
and so we're forcing everything's coming back to the source now. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
How are you aligning with? How are you using your free will to align with what makes sense health wise
Mhm.
for your own mental? Because like 40, 50 years ago, they was only dealing with mental cases when there was asylums and people could be studied or whatever. But now
Right.
you have to reconcile your mental health, and we see how it's impacting the kids. Then we got, man, and then the most important piece of all of this is how fast information is transmitted,
Yeah.
because social media used to be entertainment and then now it's an information source, where maybe not completely credible on every single thing, got it, but you can sift through it and your algorithm reflects what you're interested in, you know. So if
Mhm.
you're seeing
Mhm.
uh items on social media and talking points that are like less credible, that's a reflection of what you pay attention to. So pay attention to this too. So and get in the conversation and share the information that you see, because nobody's absolutely right, because nothing's
Right.
nothing's
Right. Right.
perfect.
Right. Right. I like how you brought that thing about what we're consuming, and we can go into the diet aspect of it too. People,
Wabu
yeah.
said I'm the black Joe Rogan.
Wabu said Vic is the black. Hey,
I'll be
that's
that.
what we're trying to. That's what you're trying to get to. That's what
Yeah,
you're trying to get to.
yeah,
And I hope that you're able to get there one day.
yeah.
You
Shout
know,
out
to
to
have that
Wabu,
type of
man.
platform.
Appreciate that.
Hey, because
It's a compliment.
A person like Joe Rogan swayed the election. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? So, you know, you do want to become that powerful. But anyway, going back to like I said, the consumption part of things, you know, me looking at my weight loss journey and being 330 pounds at one time, I'm down to 236. I just weighed myself the other day. Appreciate you, man.
Welcome to the 230s. Welcome to the 230s.
Oh yeah. So and I'm sorry, I peaked out at 338 at one time. So like I said, down to 236, and I'm trying to get below 200 completely. I'm trying to be that skinny guy with the big head, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It looks funny or whatever. So, but it's all in, you know, what you consume. You know what I'm saying? Stop putting all the crazy junk in your body, because it's doing nothing but affecting you in negative ways. And it's like we talked about this the other day, right? And I said there's nothing positive about being fat. I've been fat my whole life. There's nothing positive about being fat. If a person comes on here and they're obese or overweight or they're fat and they tell me, Kev, you're wrong about that, how you gonna tell me? You know, I know what my experience was, you know, for 45 years. I know what my experience was, you know, so there's nothing positive about being fat. Everything about being fat is negative. Your health complications, the health scares, whether it's blood pressure, whether it's cholesterol, whether it's diabetes, it don't matter what it is, you know, whether it's walking, you know what I'm saying, or trying to play with your child and being out of breath, or being outside in the summer and being able to hardly breathe, you know, or buying a shirt that you can't fit, or it fits too tight, or going to Emerald Point or some water park and you don't want to walk around with your damn shirt off because you're ashamed of what's up underneath it. There's nothing positive. Okay, black people, black family, let's stop
Get in your bag. Yeah, get in your
lying.
bag, bro.
Let's stop lying. We need to stop lying. There's nothing positive. There's nothing beautiful. There's nothing cute about being fat, overweight, and obese. There's nothing. I've lived it for 45 years, y'all.
Mhm.
It's not at no point did I look in the mirror and say, this is the best I can look. And I love what I see. At no point did I do that. If you're obese or you're big or you're fat and you're looking in the mirror and you're saying, damn, I look good. Yeah, you in imagination land. I'm not saying you can't be big and
You can
still
be
attractive.
you can still
I'm
be
not
attractive.
saying that.
Yeah,
Right. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, you know, when you look in that mirror,
you could do better.
you can do better. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. You can do better. You know that. If you 270, 280, you look at yourself, you're like, dang, you know, I'm kind of looking all right today. You know, I'm fly, fresh, deaf. You know what I'm saying? There's something in the back of your mind that says, I wish I was 220 or 210 or 200 even. That
Yeah.
would look better. You know what I'm saying? We've been lying to ourselves. Black people, we have been lying to ourselves for a long time. There's nothing beautiful, nothing cute, nothing good about being obese and fat. Nothing. This comes from a person who's 45 years. I lived my whole life obese. Even as a kid, you know, I was a little chubby fat kid, man. You know,
Yep.
if I could replay it and I knew better, you know, I would have never
You
got
make different
fat.
decisions. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
if the younger version of you could see the 338 version of you,
Right.
and you put the honey bun down instantly.
no Debbie cakes at all. Right. I'm throwing that away. I'm not
shoot
not
that
eating
shit
that.
all the way out of there. You know what I'm saying? Like,
If the younger version of me felt the prick of a needle going through your finger to check your blood sugar every day because you're pre-diabetic or you're diabetic, if the younger version of me could feel that, or if the younger version of me could feel how my body feels at one time in the hospital and my blood sugar is at 480
Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
barely surviving.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? If that younger version could feel that, I wouldn't have touched no damn Little Debbie or Hostess or any of that shit. I wouldn't even touch the soda. It's not
Bro.
worth it. It's not worth the pain going through that, bro.
That's great that you brought up the soda piece, because that's a good segue back to what RFK is on too, not just the autism stuff.
Yeah,
But he talk about sodas not being able to be purchased with EBT.
EBT. Yep, you're correct. Yeah.
When sodas have been definitely documented as a major contributor to, you know what I'm saying, an influx of sugar, unnecessary sugar.
Yeah.
In your bloodstream. You know what I'm saying? And
you're talking about a rush of sugar, bro.
For kids.
A rush of sugar. For
and
kids.
Adults.
86 grams of sugar coming out of a soda. You know what I'm saying? So if you're talking about a diabetic, and once again talking from a personal perspective, let's say that you're not on insulin, let's say that you're not on metformin, you're not on any prescription for diabetes, and a diabetic person drinks a soda, man, your numbers will go from 100, 120 fasting to 300, just by drinking a soda, bro. Half a soda. You up to that. You know what I'm saying? So that shows you what a soda does to your body. So you think about all the sodas that I drank as a little kid all the way to when I stopped, that had a significant effect on my body, bro. I want to do a whole episode on this, bro. And we just need to have brothers like myself who have had health complications because of weight, obesity, eating wrong. Brothers and sisters. It shouldn't just be brothers. It should be brothers and sisters up here talking about it, because we need to start talking about the truth. This is what it is, y'all. Lizzo told y'all that being fat was beautiful and good and okay for how long, and then out of nowhere, what Lizzo do? Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and lose this weight and get sexy, and she look good.
What she did was the equivalent of a crypto rug pull. You know what I'm saying? She got.
yeah. Her and Big Monique. Monique
yes.
did the same thing. You know what I'm saying?
Monique whole platform was hating on skinny bitches. You know what I'm saying?
Hating on skinny bitches, right? And then out of nowhere, she just, I'm gonna lose all this weight and get sexy. You know what I'm saying? So stop listening to the women telling you it's okay to be big. No, they all switching up. Yeah.
like if you ain't never experienced, like, I'm not the most fit person. I'm like, none of us are as fit as we like to be.
Right.
So that's why I don't compare myself to other people. Because when I hear people that are in the obese community, the fact that there's an obese community is wild. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They measure themselves by saying, well, at least I'm not as fat as this person that I know. I'm not. Right. You ever seen a bunch of family members sitting around and they all overweight and they all big, and then they look at each other and then they say, well, at least I ain't as big as your ass. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like, I'm just 400 pounds. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, like, y'all can't get in the twos or the high 190s or something like that. You know? And I know that there's a struggle and all of that stuff that goes with it. That's got some packaged reasons and excuses for certain people. But like, we talking about able-bodied people who have the ability to go get themselves in shape. I'm not talking about people that are dealing with medical issues that blow them up. You know what I'm saying? So that's for the person that's listening to this or watching this later, that's going to say, well, I got a thyroid problem. You know what I'm saying? No, you have you have a thigh rubbing problem. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You need to go rub your thighs on that Stairmaster until you get some gaps in between them things.
Dude, you said you got a thigh rubbing problem.
Yeah, not a thyroid, a thigh rubbing. You know what I'm saying?
You a fool with that one. Hey, I need you to go ahead and share this right here, because this right here, when I saw it, and I think when I read in the comments, they said it was like 5 years ago when she said this, but we got to check this one out, Vic. We got to check this one out.
Oh, here we go. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
System that you're experiencing and the struggle to make ends meet actually means the diet don't work for you the same. I hate when people talk about Black women being obese. I hate it. We are living in the Trump era.
White people are racist. So I put this up because I really want any white person in the room to know up front that this is what we're dealing with.
Black women, when we do the same diets as white women, we lose less weight and we lose it slower. The racism that you're experiencing and the struggle to make ends meet actually means the diet don't work for you the same.
That it's not going to be,
so it's going to keep repeating this, and it's hilarious when you watch this right here. And I don't want to pick on anybody that believes this to be fact or anything. I don't want to pick on people for that. I just want to make it. I want to make it plain. No, we're not going to use racism as a crutch for that. You know what I'm saying? If you're losing weight slower, it just means you're just losing weight slower. You may not be working as hard, or you may not be eating as clean. That's pretty much what that is. It's no racist system or racist white man that has stopped me from losing weight.
Let's make them fat.
Right. Let's make them fat. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing there's no white man that told me, hey, eat this Hostess, or eat this Little Debbie, or eat this Tasty Cake, or eat these Cheetos. There's no racist white man that told me that I had to consume that junk. You know what I'm saying? It's bad diet handed down from one generation to another generation. And that's all it is, y'all. That's all it is. There's no need of blaming it on anything. It's one generation handing bad diet habits down to another generation. I have to watch what I'm feeding my daughter. I can't feed my daughter the same things. I can't get her strung out on sugary.
I like the fact that you said strung out too, because it's
addictive.
It's addictive. It's there's a psychology that goes with it, because it's short-term fulfillment, and when the sugar wears off, you want another one. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And
people don't know, not to interrupt what you're saying, but people don't know that sugar is one molecule away from being cocaine.
Yep.
One molecule.
That's what used to be in Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So and they tried all types of substitutes like aspartame, and that was found to be what in Sweden low or something like that. Yep.
Yeah.
And try to create all kind of substitutes, man. You know what I'm saying? When the minute they have to create a substitute, understand it was created in a lab and it's synthetic.
It's just as simple as this. If it's sweet, it's bad for you.
Yep.
Yeah, it's as simple as that.
Unless it comes right out of the fruit by itself, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, even still, you have to moderate that. You feel what I'm saying? Because your blood sugar can spike, depends on what your DNA is, can spike off of eating a watermelon or eating a banana. You know what I'm saying? So you have to even watch fruit. If it's sweet, you better watch it. You know what I'm saying? Because that could fuck with you. Now there are people out here like the Holistic Brothers that they claim that you can go on an all fruit diet. Nah, that's not for every DNA. It's not for every DNA. We all come from different places. If we're speaking about Black people, we all come from different places in Africa. So the thing is that we all weren't eating the same diet everywhere in Africa. Africa is a huge continent. So climate is different in different places. So you really have to do your DNA or the research on what your DNA is to see exactly what your people were eating back then.
You can't even drink water everywhere you go.
No.
Man, look, you go out the country and you visit someplace in they tell you in Mexico don't drink the water, right? They're not lying. Because their filtration system is not the same. You have been on a different filtration system. The water in Texas is not the same as the water in Virginia.
Nope.
So the likelihood that more parasites and other, microbes are in different filtration systems that can mess you up is pretty high, because because everybody can't even eat the same foods without having a gut reaction to them, you know?
Right. Absolutely, absolutely.
Because
Man,
we all got
yeah,
different
it's
tolerances.
yeah, and you're right about that because we can look at the Flint, Michigan issue that they had back. Well, they're still having those issues in the pipe. So,
Yep.
like you said, it's just different everywhere. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, I suggest people, study your DNA and not just study DNA, but study your body. Like listen to your body and what it's doing. Like when you eat something, really listen to your body. Like how does your body feel after consuming? Like if I eat beef, I'm extremely slow. Like my brain is like slowing down like crazy after I eat beef or any heavy meat for that matter. So even chicken is starting to turn into that. Really, I've gotten to the point where only meat I can really consume that makes me still feel good is fish.
Mm-hmm.
And that's got to be something like salmon or something like that. It really can't be something fried.
And you got to be careful with that because they create salmon now. I've seen
Yeah.
videos where they can synthetically grow some salmon. I'll be like, you might be eating bus seats. You know what I'm saying?
Bruh.
You might be eating the inside of a seat cushion. You know,
You be saying the craziest stuff, man.
Remember when they had that documentary on McDonald's food, Super Size Me, and they show how long that Happy Meal lasted or that Big Mac lasted.
Yep. I remember that.
The bread don't even burn. You know what I'm saying? So you probably got some Happy Meal chunks sitting in your stomach right now. You know what I'm saying?
You know what? Burger King actually picked up their business by showing that their Whopper broke down. Like they wanted to show that their Whopper broke down, and it broke down in no time. You know what I'm saying? So people started eating big, Whoppers instead of the Big Macs because of that. So yeah, they use that as advertisement, saying, "Hey, we serve," and they kind of bragged about it. We serve real meat here. You know what I'm saying? It ain't no crazy stuff.
Yep, man. You made me think about something with that Whopper. I seen this guy. He talked about how Whopper tore him up.
And
it was hilarious, man. And I'm looking for it now, but you just made me think about it. And he was like, man, that Whopper tore him to pieces. He said it said something else other than that moo meat in there. He said it's got to be some kangaroo, some possum, or something like that. And
I can believe it, bro.
Yeah,
I can believe it.
But the thing is, all this stuff's coming up. You can't even get mad about it no more. What you need to do is take yourself out the situation completely.
Yeah,
it's just time to get away from it altogether. You know what I'm saying? Because some of the stuff that we want to continue to enjoy is not what it used to be. You know what I'm saying? And we know that. And we got to be honest about that when it comes down to how it makes us feel after the fact. Yeah, you might enjoy it, and there may be a little bit of nostalgia with it, but eventually your body gonna have to be the one to tell the truth about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and your body gonna tell the truth about it.
Yep.
One day you're gonna be walking up a damn flight of steps and can't breathe. You're like, okay, what the hell going on with this right here? You know what I'm saying? Or you get that mucus in the back of your damn throat that you can't get rid of. Why is my body producing so much mucus? Well, it's that's sickness. It's what that is. So yeah, you're right. It's gonna tell the truth.
Man,
yeah,
look,
man.
I just found a video too. I'm about to put it up there. Let me get it situated. Man, like the way that this guy breaks down this Whopper tearing him up is out of control. Hey, no, I hadn't even got it yet, but we'll keep moving until I get it situated, man, because I need to get the audio up for it, and because I want people to see it. But the overall thing for the night is that we got to put away all of the victim cards.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
The victim cards is like really killing us, we're setting ourselves up to be victims, and if we're not honest with ourselves about that, then how in the world can we move forward if we don't take our health seriously, what we consume, and what's important. You know what I'm saying at this
Mhm.
point, because if we're supposed to be working together, solving problems, but if your availability is skewed because you can't get to where you need to be because you got a doctor's appointment, you know what I'm saying? And your availability is impacted because the best ability is availability. If you ain't available, you can't do anything. You can't help
No,
nobody.
you really
It don't
can't.
matter.
Right.
It don't matter how passionate you are about it. If you're not available, you're a liability.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
and if we want to solve problems and we need the best minds available, then how are we going to do that if our best people are not taking care of themselves? You know what I'm saying? We can't make plans on people that don't show up and that can't show up, because that is very, very dangerous to do so. Because it's just irresponsible, man. It doesn't help us at all, you know?
No.
And that is really the main thing when it comes down to like what I'm saying here is like it's only so far that you can take racism and make it the reason why we're failing, you know.
Right.
It's only so far you can go with it, you know. And if we want to win, how we gonna win? You know what I'm saying? By, you know, like making excuses. We wouldn't accept the same. We wouldn't accept the excuses that we use if our own children said it.
Nope.
Well, somehow we allow adults to make those excuses as if that's okay, you know. I found it. Here we go. But this is the tribute to the Whopper.
I went to Burger King and ate a Whopper, and I love a Whopper. That Whopper tore my stomach to pieces. I started doo-dooing out my ears. I was hurting. I think there's some puppies, some kangaroo, something is in that beef at Burger King that does not move. That burger ain't all cow. There's something else inside of it. I don't know who put it in there, but it tore me up. And from that day to this one, I ain't put a piece. I ain't do the Whopper, the Junior Whopper, nothing. Because I thought my kidney was going to end up coming out of that toilet because I couldn't come out of that bathroom. Every time I turned around, I was going back to the bathroom. I coughed, a little squirt. I had to run right back to the bathroom. I said, what is happening? What did they put in this Whopper? Somebody put a laxative in here and did not tell me that they prunes in this burger because something's cleaning me out. So I don't know. I ain't trying to get no bad advertising, but Burger King. I don't know what you're doing there, but that's not cow meat. They something else. And I don't know what's in it. Little puppy chow, kibbles and bits. I don't know what it is. It made me
Yep. That's just what it is. Yeah, and that's just what it is, bro. I mean, you experience when you eat fast food, period, bro. Like it's horrible, man. You know, you can't hold anything down. Everything just run through you. But we've been used to it so long that we just think it's normal at this point. You know, so like I said, man, it's been a great talking to you, man. Great conversation tonight. I want to get on the subject of diet next time we run on here, man. I think that'd be a good one to do.
Okay, yeah, and I want to leave with one video that take us out of here, because everybody's got a decision to make, whether they disciplined or undisciplined. Either the decisions that you make pivot off your mindset. So check this out.
My grandma said the only two things in life that you worry about, whether you're healthy or whether you're sick. If you're healthy, you ain't got nothing to worry about. But if you're sick, you got two things to worry about. Whether you're gonna get better, whether you're gonna get worse. You get better, you ain't got nothing to worry about. But if you get worse, you got two things to worry about. Whether you're gonna live, whether you're gonna die. If you live, you ain't got nothing to worry about. But if you die, you got two things. Whether you're going to heaven, whether you're going to hell. If you go to heaven, you ain't got nothing to worry about. But if you go to hell, you got two things. Original or extra crispy? That's the
Go ahead, share that to me in my inbox so I can get
Original extra crispy, baby. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely, bro.
Yeah. Well, great having you. You're gonna keep shifting the conversation, you know what I'm saying, to things that we can control versus the things that we can only influence. We're making less we're making less mistakes, you know what I'm saying, is what the goal is. We're making less excuses, you know what I'm saying, because life happens beyond the algorithm. You can't just live online and get all your information. You got to have a conversation that goes with it. So I appreciate you guys for tuning into the show, and catch me on Facebook, follow me on all socials, YouTube channel, Accountable Masculinity University, and make sure you go follow Kevin Wallace on all platforms as well. His name is the same as it is on Facebook, and I'm out.
All right, now y'all have a good one, bro.
Bet.
Peace.